All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's episode of Staring is going to be a really, really fun one for me. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at a couple of different articles, and they're going to kind of tie together, which is going to be really, really cool. And then we're going to try to figure out what that means. I know that's kind of cryptic the way I'm saying that, and I'm not meaning to be cryptic. There's no big secret here. Basically, what we're doing is we're looking at two different articles on space and space travel, and we're going to try to explore this theory I have of what that means. So the first one comes from BusinessInsider.com, and the headline here is, physicists have discovered that rotating black holes might serve as portals for hyperspace travel. And this was published on March 15, 2019. Scientists once thought that traveling into a black hole would kill you. But now physicists have run computer simulations to show that certain types of black holes, large rotating ones, could serve as portals for hyperspace travel. Some physicists believe that you'd arrive at a remote part of the Milky Way or perhaps in another galaxy altogether. One of the safest passageways might be the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy called Sagittarius A. Now I'm going to read a transcript from a video that is on this subject. Narrator: black holes skirt the line between science fiction and science fact. On the one hand, scientists have seen real black holes in action, consuming unsuspecting stars that pass too close. But where reality ends and fiction takes over is at the edge of a black hole, a place called the event horizon, where no spacecraft has ever gone. So whatever happens beyond that boundary inside of a black hole is anyone's guess. Scientists agree that if you travel far enough into a black hole, gravity will eventually become so strong that it kills anything in its path. But sci-fi films are more optimistic, depicting black holes as portals through space and time, or gateways to other dimensions. And it turns out some scientists now think that the sci-fi buffs may be onto something. Black holes might be suitable for hyperspace travel after all. It just takes the right kind of black hole. At the center of every black hole is a point of infinite density, called a singularity. It's what gives black holes their strong gravitational pull. And for decades, scientists thought singularities were all the same. So anything that passed the event horizon would be destroyed the same way, by being stretched and pulled like an infinitely long piece of spaghetti. But that all changed in the early 1990s, when different research teams in Canada and the US discovered a second singularity called a mass inflation singularity. It still has a strong gravitational pull, but it would only stretch you by a finite amount, and potentially not kill you in the process, meaning you just might survive the trip through a black hole. More specifically, through a large rotating black hole, which is where these types of singularities exist. Now, astronomers obviously can't travel through a black hole yet to test this theory. In fact, the best place to test this is at the supermassive black hole in the center of our home galaxy, the Milky Way, which is 27,000 light years away, not conveniently close to the least. Therefore, scientists instead run computer simulations to see what would happen if we did manage to reach an isolated rotating black hole. And now, for the first time, a team of scientists at UMass Dartmouth and Georgia Gwinnett College have done exactly that. This is a quote from Lyre Burko. You would feel a slight increase in temperature, but it would not be a dramatic increase. It's just that you don't have enough time to respond to the very strong forces. It would just go through you too quickly. Narrator again. He added that passing through a weak singularity is like quickly running your finger through a candle flame that's 1,000 degrees Celsius. If you hold your finger in the flame long enough, you'll get burned. But pass your finger through quickly and you'll barely feel a thing. Similarly, if you pass through a weak singularity with the right speed and momentum, and at the right time, you may not feel much at all. As for what happens once you get through to the other side, no one really knows. But Berko has his own ideas. He says one possibility is that we'd arrive at some other remote part of our galaxy, potentially light years away from any planets or stars. But a second and perhaps more intriguing possibility is that we'd arrive in a different galaxy altogether. That's if you even make it that far. Scientists say more research is needed before we're anything close to successfully traveling through a black hole. But when we are ready, one of the safest passageways might be the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy called Sagittarius A, and it might just be our ticket out of the Milky Way. So that is the end of the first article. Now what I'm going to do at the end of this is I'm going to kind of give a brief sum up of the main idea of the article. Because sometimes when I do some of these articles, they get a little bit heady, and sometimes it's kind of hard to understand. But basically, the idea here is that in one type of black hole, they believe that it could serve as a portal, a wormhole, if you will, that can transport you from point A to point B almost instantaneously. So instead of traveling hundreds of thousands of light years to get somewhere, you could literally go from point A to point B in a snap of a finger by going through this quote-unquote portal, which is the center of the black hole. It's not proven, obviously, because nobody's ever done it. It's just theory. But if it's true, it could allow us to travel wherever in the universe we want. So that's the general idea of the first article. Now I'm going to read the second article, and as I go on this second article, you'll kind of start to make these connections yourself as you listen. But we'll go ahead and expand on it after we're done. This article is from ancientcode.com, and the title of it is NASA Finds Hidden Portals in Earth's Magnetic Field. A portal is considered a shortcut, a guide, a door into the unknown. But portals as we know them are only present in sci-fi movies, right? Well, according to scientists, it turns out that portals actually exist. And not only that, NASA-funded researchers at the University of Iowa figured out what was going on. We call them X-points or electron diffusion regions, explains plasma physicist Jack Scudder of the University of Iowa. They're places where the magnetic field of Earth connects to the magnetic field of the Sun, creating an uninterrupted path leading from our own planet to the Sun's atmosphere 93 million miles away. It's a shortcut worthy of the best portals of fiction, only this time the portals are real. And with the new signpost, we know how to find them. In the last couple of decades, science, or better said mainstream science, has tried to adapt to numerous claims, features, and characteristics that have previously been considered as unacceptable. Breakthroughs and countless discoveries have altered science as we know it like never before. While many researchers reject new ways and new concepts, other researchers around the globe are embracing the fact that in order for science in general to advance, and make even bigger breakthroughs, we must let go of the strict dogmas set into place decades ago. The reality has proven to be a very complex concept that has the ability to change our perception of life, our planet, solar system, known physics, and the possibility of alien life. While many of these subjects have been part of countless conspiracy theories, people on Earth have come a far way in the last decade in our quest to understand the secrets of the universe. It turns out there are hidden portals in our planet's magnetic field. Scientifically speaking, a wormhole is a hypothetical feature in space-time that primarily acts as some sort of a shortcut through the universe. This has been featured in numerous science fiction movies and accepted as a possible way of travel of advanced extraterrestrial beings, which science tends to be split in their opinions on this matter. While many believe wormholes, portals, and shortcuts in the cosmos are most likely possible, others firmly reject that notion, saying it's all part of science fiction. Interestingly, science fiction has made numerous new technologies a possibility. Things that were considered as science fiction half a century ago are today's reality. Speaking about portals, it's called a flux transfer event, or FTE, says space physicist David Siebeck of the Goddard Space Flight Center. 10 years ago, I was pretty sure they didn't exist, but now the evidence is incontrovertible. An example of how science fiction turns into a possibility is a discovery NASA made in the Earth's magnetic field, as they have discovered there are hidden portals there. In fact, there are certain areas in Earth's magnetic field that are connected with our sun's magnetic field, meaning that this allows for an uninterrupted path that leads from the Earth to the sun, located some 93 million miles away. In order to make the discovery, NASA used its Themis spacecraft, which examined the phenomenon. According to NASA, the strange portals open and close several times a day. Strangely, UFO hunters have claimed for years that our sun is part of a gigantic stargate used by gods or highly advanced extraterrestrial civilizations to travel across the universe rapidly. According to research, the portals NASA discovered are mostly located tens of thousands of kilometers from Earth, and some of them are small, while others are gigantic, vast, and sustained. According to scientists, these portals transfer massive amounts of magnetically charged particles that originate in the sun. There are many unanswered questions. Why do the portals form every 8 minutes? How do magnetic fields inside the cylinder twist and coil? Magnetic portals are invisible, unstable, and elusive. They open and close without warning, and there are no signposts to guide in. And that's a quote from Dr. Scudder from the University of Iowa. And that is the end of this article. Now, a couple of points of note here for this article that are very important and very interesting. This goes beyond just being a theory of maybe this is a way that extraterrestrials travel, or maybe it's a way that we can possibly travel at some point. The reason I say it goes beyond a theory is not because we've traveled through these wormholes. That's not what I'm trying to say. But particles from the sun have traveled through. That's what's interesting here. It says in the article that massive amounts of magnetically charged particles that originated from the sun have come through these portals to our magnetic field. That means that matter in some form is able to take this wormhole, this portal, this cosmic tunnel, if you will. So it goes a little bit beyond the realm of theoretical of, is it a possibility that these things can be used as an interstate highway system for space? Where it becomes theoretical is, are alien beings using these for that purpose? And can we use these for that purpose? That's where you start to get into the realm of the theoretical. A couple of the big challenges in my mind for that would be, can living beings, some form of biological life, actually go through one of these things without being destroyed? Can you come out the other end alive? Because after all, that's kind of the most important thing here, because if you die in the process, it's kind of useless. That's what we don't know, because we don't really understand yet how it works. We don't understand how they're able to pass through the particles. Is it going to be something like we saw on Star Trek many years ago, where every atom of your body is broken down and then reconstituted somewhere else? I'm speaking now of the whole beam me up thing. And if that happens, are you still the same person when you come out the other side? Or are you a carbon copy? That's something I always wondered about when I watched Star Trek, is I would see them beaming from here to there, from the ship to the ground to the ship. And I thought, well, that's interesting, but how does that work? So then I started looking into how that would actually work and how scientists and physicists are talking about actually doing that someday and how it would work. And then I realized as I learned more about the subject matter that you're kind of dying each time you do that. Because what happens is every single atom of your body gets broken down to a atomic level and then gets projected across space to the other point where it's reassembled, and then you walk off the thing like it's no big deal. But you got to think, are you going to be alive at the end of that process? How do you get broken down like that and then come back? Is your consciousness even there? Are you alive? Or will you just come back as just a meat suit, just a lump of flesh that just falls to the ground? Kind of morbid, kind of sick to think that way, I guess, but that's kind of what I always wondered when I was growing up. Could that be possible? Would it actually work? How that applies here is, are we dealing with that same idea when we're dealing with wormholes? Whether it is these smaller wormholes that open up every 8 minutes in our magnetic field, or whether it is the larger wormholes that are in our magnetic field that are stable and are always open, or whether we are talking about from the first article, the idea of going into the singularity of a black hole and coming out the other side somewhere else. How does that work? That's the big question. It can't just be like a tunnel where you can just literally slide through it, because if that's the case, I don't see how that would move you from point A to point B instantaneously, because that would mean that there's a physical tunnel you go through and you still have to go through it. So you're still, even if you go really, really fast, it's still going to take some time to travel, because we're talking massive, massive distances here. It's still going to take some time. So is it a situation where literally you're broken down to the atomic level and then kind of beamed through space and time and then you arrive on the other side? Or is it a situation like what Einstein theorized, where one of his theories of time travel was that you could get from point A to point B no matter how far the distance apart by bending space? And what he theorizes is if you put enough force in the center point, that you could literally bend space and time, and point A would become point B instantaneously. A good way to visualize this is to take a piece of string. The left side of the string is point B, the right side of the string is point A. The entire string is that distance you have to travel to get from point A to point B. But if you fold that string over onto itself, you can lay point A on top of point B. So then that distance doesn't exist anymore. They're on top of each other. You can easily go from point A to point B instantly, or at least in a extremely small amount of time. Einstein theorized if you could generate that kind of force and apply it at the proper point in time and space, you could actually fold space and you could achieve it that way. Now, what would produce that amount of energy to fold space? Who the hell knows? That's crazy talk. Is it theoretically possible? Maybe. But just the idea of generating that kind of force and being able to not only generate, but direct that amount of energy is mind-blowing to me. We are generations away from anything that resembles that kind of technology. But could the singularity inside of one of these particular types of black holes, or one of these wormholes that are opening up in our magnetic field, could they be doing exactly that? Is that how you can travel through one of these things to a place way far away in almost no time? Is that how they're doing it? When you step into that, well, I guess you wouldn't step because you're in space, but when you fly into that portal, whether it be the wormhole or the black hole, is it possible that when you fly through it, you will get to the other side very, very quickly because the other side is right beside you now? Because literally what has happened is space has been folded over onto itself in that little tiny area. Very, very interesting to think about. And could it be that the force required to bend space in that way comes from the black hole itself, or comes from our gravitational forces on Earth? The Earth's own gravity produces that amount of energy that is somehow able to be focused, or somehow it's some natural reaction with the magnetic field of the Earth where it just forms these things. Very, very interesting. Now, if you're looking at the idea that aliens are using these to travel, maybe it's not a natural occurring phenomenon here on Earth at all. Maybe it's something where the potential exists for it, to where we have the gravitational force and we have the magnetic field. So you have those powerful forces already in play, but they're simply manipulated by the aliens using technology that we don't possess. And by manipulating those insanely powerful forces, they are able to cause one of these things to open up. And it stays open for a short amount of time and closes. Maybe that is how they can literally travel from their home, wherever the hell it is, millions of light years away maybe, who knows, to our home quickly. Because that's the thing, if you're talking about traveling from another planet or another solar system or another galaxy even to our planet, that requires more than just a fast spaceship. Because when you really start to think about it, if you're talking just in our own galaxy, this black hole that they want to try it on possibly one day is 27,000 light years away. Now, what that means for those who don't understand that means if you travel at the speed of light, which is theoretically the fastest speed possible, if you travel at the speed of light, it would take you 27,000 years to reach it. Now, that's just not feasible. That's not something that you can do at this point. Let's say by some miracle, aliens have discovered a way to not only travel at the speed of light, but to survive that kind of speed. Their bodies can handle that kind of speed and that force. And they're able to travel at the speed of light. If they would want to travel just to that black hole, which is 27,000 light years away, it would take 27,000 years to get there at the speed of light. So just going fast is not going to get it done when you're talking these massive, massive distances. But the idea of wormholes, the idea of these portals that can transport you from one place to the other, that has always filled that gap nicely. That has always been the way to explain it, to how they can get here from there. It's been used in science fiction movies and science fiction books almost as long as I've been alive. People have been talking about doing this. and talking about aliens being able to do this. But up until recently, it was only theory. We had no idea if it could actually be done. We had no idea of if it was even possible. But now we're finding, yes, it might actually be possible. Or at least it's possible for particles to travel that way. But can human beings travel that way? Can aliens travel that way? Can a complex biological creature travel that way? That's the question. And I think that really depends, once again, on how it works. What happens to your body when you go through one of these things? If it's simply bending space to where you can just, if you picture it like you're in a room and you open a door and you walk through the door to the other side, if it works that way, to where once you go into one of these things, you just pop out the other side almost instantly, and you're on the other side of the universe or something, if that's how it works, because you're actually bending space, then you don't have to break the body down into a bunch of little particles. You don't have to do any of that. So it's possible we could survive that, if we can survive that initial force of bending space. So it would have to be to where that force is applied, space bends, and then it's held there, but that force doesn't act upon us, which theoretically it could be. We could do that. If space is bent that way, we could go through, I mean. Theoretically, that makes sense, but it all depends on how it works. That's my basic point. I don't want to keep beating this dead horse over and over and over again, trying to figure it out. So that's the general idea here, is we may have discovered how aliens are able to get here from there. Now, this is something that's been theorized before. It's not something I came up with. It's not my idea. But what's interesting here is that this research that they're doing now on these wormholes that are opening up, and this theory of a certain type of black hole being able to be used the same way, I think those two things are related. I think that kind of connects the dots and fills in the gaps. And I'm thinking that that's going to lead to one day us being able to do that, travel wherever we want. And it might even be possible to direct our travel as well. It might just not just be a random thing. Because if you can take point A and point B, bend space, and make them together to travel that way, it's only a matter of time before you can pick your point B. Point A is obviously going to be wherever you are. But eventually I think we'll be able to pick point B. And we'll be able to manipulate space so that we can open that portal to go wherever we want. Now, obviously this is going to be probably thousands of years in the future. Who knows? It's going to be a long time from now, unless we are given that technology by an alien race that teaches us how to do it. But if we have to figure this out on our own and come up with it on our own, it's going to take a long time. But I think this is a first step. I think we're on that road, which to me is not only interesting, but really exciting to kind of be in the very beginning stages of this and to watch it as it develops through our life. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy, and I'd like to get his opinions on this and see what he thinks about it, and then we'll kind of go back and forth from there.
Well, thank you, brother. And thank you. Just to let everybody know, I'm into aliens and time traveler, but this is more of James's thing. But this is always interesting to me because I've always liked space travel too. It makes sense. I mean, you see a lot of movies where like you'll go to one, black hole, they'll go through a black hole, you used to see it, it sucks everything in. And then there's some movies where it shows you go to another side of the galaxy or another galaxy, like James says, point A to point B, or in some sense would be point A to point Z. But there really is no ending to space, so we don't know where it would take you. That's the only thing about this. If you think about it, if we were able to, we would have to figure out how to control where we're going too. Because you could go to this thing and don't know where the hell you're going. Do I believe it's possible? It is probably possible. I really believe that because think about it. Where does this black hole? Just a black hole just sucks you in. That's it. It's matter, or is it like? Does it take you somewhere else? And that's what I think. It takes you somewhere else to another side of the galaxy or another galaxy altogether. But the problem is, if you actually were able to do this, guys, would you know where to go? I mean, yeah, they say aliens use this and it's a possibility, but they must have technology that we'll never get unless they show us, or it will be hundreds of thousands of years that they're using to be able to use this stuff, because you got to know where you're going. You can go to point A to point B, but you can end up being point A to point Z. You can go to Zevlon. I don't know. I'm just making this up, guys. It's not a real planet. I'm just trying to be funny. Well, what that means is it sends you to a planet you don't even know where the hell you're at. You know what I mean? So they must really have some high technology to do this if it's true. And we're going to need it. And like James says, one day it will happen unless they show some alien race comes out of nowhere. And I think that will happen one day. And I think they're already been here. And they've showed us how to do certain things. But this is just so we're going to take, even if they show us, it's still going to take us out about couple hundred years to even figure this out. And, if you ever see the movies like, start like Hyperspace, or they show them flying through, going through one direction to another, and they just hit it. You saw Star Wars, guys, and you see just all these lights out of nowhere. That's what I think that might be what a black hole kind of does. Or a black hole just sucks you up like it says, and just you end up, gravity just pulls you apart. How fast it is in that black hole, and it just takes you to nowhere, just eats you pretty much. You go to nowhere, and that could be a possibility too. That could be, but I believe that black holes have some black holes, like they said. There's other ones that don't. I think they just suck you up and you're gone, and whatever it sucks up, a planet or stars or asteroids or whatever. Say there's even a space ship or something out there, it's going to suck it up, you're gone. And that's what I think. Do I believe that could be a possibility way of traveling for aliens? Yes, I think it will be one day for us too, but it's going to be a long time. But it's very interesting to hear this, because it's just, I'm a big sci-fi person, and it's just great to hear anything with space, and it's good to hear this kind of stuff, because that's one thing I wanted to do before I die, is to see, like to show them shoot. I know if you're a millionaire, you can do it or something. It's going to be like a little bit cheaper, but unless you have like $1 million or $500,000, you can get flying up to space for like 10 minutes or something. But that would be so awesome if you could do it. Or say they get the hotels up there like they supposedly are supposed to get, just to see what, Earth looks like from the outside of, space. You always see that on TV or movies, and a lot of sci-fi movies, you get to see space outside the, the window, you see Earth and stuff. That would be just amazing to me. And then breathtaking, because it looks so beautiful. So this is me being a nerd right now, guys, and I'm sorry, I'm not all, it's just something I've always been involved in, liked, being a Star Wars fan, Star Trek, especially Star Trek, a lot of black hole talking about in that. So, and I think it will be a way of travel, and I think it travels this, and I believe that some higher technology aliens or beings use that to go one point A to point B, C, whatever, and they do it, but they know how to do it, but it's took them forever. So I think that's the other issue we're going to have, is even we figure it out, we're going to have where we're going to go. Where are we going? Do you really have the technology to get there? That's the thing. I mean, you're going thousands and thousands of miles, millions and maybe even trillions. You don't know what you're doing. No one really knows. This is all speculation. This is theory and speculation, but it goes somewhere. So you might go into another dimension. We don't know what this thing does. That's another theory I was thinking of. Maybe it takes you to another dimension. James, I know after I'm done talking, maybe you could talk about that a little bit. But, give up, that could be another theory too, not just another place it takes you to a whole dimension. That would be even crazier if you think about it, if it takes you to another dimension. That was just a theory I'm throwing out there, but yeah, I could see it being a possibility if somebody had, they've been around for hundreds of thousands of years longer than we have, and they figured this stuff out years and hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, how to even fly. Flying saucers go so quick you can't even. It's faster than the speed of light. I mean, and we can't even do that yet. I really think that that's a possibility. Big if we're ever going to be able to do it, unless they help us. I really don't think it will be anytime soon. Good 500-600 years. Now, if they help us, it'd probably be a lot sooner. If it's true, if they knew how to do it, they know how to control that kind of speed. That's a lot of speed, though. You're going. I don't know how you would be able to control that, but I'm not an expert in this. There's some people who actually do this for NASA and, work on spaceships. They know the difference of how fast you can go and where you can do it. And, and whatever if aliens exist, and I believe they do, I'm not going to lie about that. They figured this out years ago. So they have technology, and they probably have metal that can last. They might have metal. It's made out of moon dust for all I know. I'm just, some kind of metal they made out of an asteroid that we don't even know about. Because I saw James post something about there's an asteroid that's full of gold or something, and it could make everybody a billionaire. You never know. They could have found an asteroid made with this stuff. It just doesn't pull apart. It's like a liquid metal or something. It just forms to whatever. It's stronger than anything we ever known. It can take the heat from the sun. You never know. You know what I'm saying? They could have something we don't even know about, and that could be the technology where they're zooming back and forth with these starships or spaceships or whatever you want to call them, UFOs. I can imagine. If they were flying around like the Millennium Falcon or the Star Destroyer, that's a little bit extreme, but something a little bit similar to that, I could see that. The only thing that's scary about that, if they have that kind of technology, what could they do to us? They could probably just raid our planet and don't even have to do that. Just kill everything here and don't even blow up the planet. They probably have that weaponry. But, the other theory, like I was saying, guys, it could be a way to another portal or another dimension. Or it would be very interesting. We could find this out. I know it probably won't happen in my time. We'll probably be gone. But if you guys are listening to this show in 100 years or 200 years, maybe you guys can remember the show and remember how we talked about this. And now you might be flying to another planet for all we know, doing this, going to the black hole. So that's all I really got to say. I'm not a big expert in this. So there you go, James.
One thing that is extremely interesting comes from all of our different sci-fi movies that we grew up on and love. Whether it is Star Wars or Star Trek, like Old Boy mentioned, or even something as silly as Spaceballs. Pretty much every one of them, when they go to warp speed, the same thing happens. They are looking out the window of the spaceship, and you see a mass of stars everywhere, pinpricks of light. They pull the lever, push the button, however they do it to engage the warp drive. All of those stars stretch out into long, thin strands of light. If you've ever driven in the wintertime, if you're in a place where it snows, then it kind of looks like that when you're driving down the road and you have your lights on and you see the snow coming at you. It kind of looks like you're going warp drive. I always thought that when I was a kid. But that's the look that we all think of and remember when it comes to warping or warp drives or anything like that in the movies. Now, why that is extremely interesting is if you think back to these articles I just read you, especially the one about the black hole. Remember it talking about what theoretically would happen to you if you went into one, how it would stretch you out. So if the way you warp is by going through a black hole, then that's what would happen, is all of space would kind of stretch out, you included, into a long kind of thin line, and then you just zip through it. Now think about the idea that they could do this anywhere they wanted to. It's not like they had to fly to a certain spot to warp. Pretty much wherever they were, they could just warp. They could just push the button or pull the lever or whatever, and zip, off they go. So that kind of deals with the second article I read you about the idea of being able to open up these things wherever you want. Very small windows, very small amounts of time that you can cause one of these wormholes to open and go through it. So you put those two things together, like I just did tonight, where you have the stretching and pulling of space and the ability to open up a wormhole wherever you want. And essentially, that is what is taking place in every one of these sci-fi movies when they warp. Here you have the top scientists in the world and cutting-edge research that is saying that this is possible, that this is what they're thinking is the future. This is how the things that they were doing in those movies might actually be done in real life, which is spectacular. Now, they're not linking it to the movies in the articles. I'm linking it to the movies. Because if you think about it, that's kind of would explain how they did that. And now we have science backing that up, saying that at least on a theoretical level, it's possible to do, which is amazing. And it kind of makes you wonder, were the people that came up with that idea, whether it was George Lucas for Star Wars or some other guy, whoever came up with that idea to put that in a movie first, was it that that person was just such a visionary and just saw a glimpse of the future and put it in the movie and it just turned out to luckily be true? Or is it possible that we already knew it was true, even back then, because we were told that it was true by people that, well, maybe not people, but beings at least, that have already done it? Is it possible that aliens have used that very technology and that very method of travel to get here? And that is where we got the idea. Now, you might think that's kind of a stretch, and maybe it is. But think about what are the odds of some random film guy stumbling upon a fundamental truth of the universe like that. He's not an astronomer. He's not a physicist. It's so far outside of what science was even thinking was possible at the time. How did that occur? How was some random sci-fi guy able to accurately predict something that supposedly we are just learning about today? Kind of makes you wonder. Now, I've said on this show many, many times before that there is technology and there is capabilities that our government possesses that we have absolutely no idea about, that's classified? Is this one of those situations? Is the general public just beginning to be made aware of what they've been doing already for a long time? Or at least, at the very least, what they have known is actually possible because there are aliens that have done it and they're aware of this. Is that a possibility? I would say yes, probably. Can I tell you definitively yes or no? No, I cannot. Can I say with 100% certainty this is true? No, I cannot. But it does seem like one hell of a big coincidence, doesn't it? That in the 1970s and before that even, you're talking mid to late 60s, you have people on screen warping. You have the stretching of space in order to achieve that. Long before it was public knowledge, long before people were talking about it. Now, you might have had some physicists somewhere, some astrophysicists that said, theoretically, this might be the way it works, but it wasn't something that was in the mainstream consciousness of the country. At least not to the point to where some guy making a movie is going to know about it. Unless he really, really dug deep to do his research to try to make it as realistic as possible. And if you think about it, it's just, Star Wars, Star Trek, those things are not meant to be as realistic as possible. When those movies and that show was made, the overwhelming majority of the things in it were completely out of the realm of possibility. But it inspired a whole generation to be interested in science and to pursue that as a lifestyle and a life choice and a career, and to actually make it their life's work to make some of those things from those shows a reality. It's very interesting to think about. Now, like I said, I can't tell you one way or the other for sure whether this is stuff we're just now figuring out and learning, or whether this is kind of something that was handed to us. And we kind of already know about it, and we're just now starting to release it to the public. The timing is definitely suspect, because we're at a time period right now where a lot of the things that were secret for a long, long time are being made public so everybody knows about them. You're going to see cures for a lot of diseases coming in the very near future. We won't have to worry about cancer anymore soon. We won't have to worry about Alzheimer's anymore soon. There's going to be a lot of things like that we've had the cures for a long time, but they're going to be released to the public soon. You're going to start seeing, and you're already starting to see, but you're going to see a lot more stories coming out of where this particular team, research team in this country here or whatever, figured out a way to do this thing or that thing that cures cancer, or that cures this disease or cures that disease. That's how they're going to do it. But believe me, these cures have been around for a long, long time. Is this one of those situations to where we're getting this information now, the public is, it's being released in the form of, hey, look what we just figured out. But in reality, it's something we've known a long time. I think kind of the evidence, even though it is circumstantial, I think the evidence points to the fact that we've known about this for a long time. Because otherwise, why would it be in our movies? Why would it be in our books? Why would it be in popular culture? And now all of a sudden it's being proven true? I don't buy that. Because the people that came up with those ideas supposedly had no background in astrophysics. They didn't know the things necessary to come up with those ideas. Very, very cool stuff. So, unfortunately, that's about all the time we have for this episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy so he can do his shout-outs.
And thank you, brother. I really enjoyed this show. It was something different we did about space travel, and it was just hopefully it happens one day, like he was saying. I had something different other than just ghosts and demons and monsters. We did a little bit different this week. We're gonna be doing this forever. We love doing it, man, till we die probably, and or get on. One day we might be on TV. You never know, or the radio, like Sirius. That's what never. But if it doesn't happen, we'll just keep doing it like we are. But that's what would be a great thing for everyone, so we can just tell people to learn more about this way of life. I wouldn't say way of life. I'd say more of what goes on at night in the dark. You know what I mean. But I hope everybody I love you guys from listening to this on Parax Radio. Check us out on YouTube. You guys want to listen to our old shows, go to James Hershey Jr.'s YouTube page and subscribe. We have merchandise, shirts, blankets, iPhone cases. So if you want anything, check it out. He'll tell you where to go. So I hope everybody has a great night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster hunters, and demon lovers. I love you. Blessed be. Come get lost with us. Remember that. Goodbye, guys.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where you'll find all the episodes of Staring. That's where you'll find all the episodes of Tales, the TV show we do. A bunch of different paranormal news videos, just all kinds of interesting and fun stuff there. I'm trying to put a lot more content up as we go. You'll always get at least one a week. You'll get at least the hour-long radio show a week. But I'm trying to make sure that I put up... My goal, honestly, is to almost every day have something going up on the channel. But that's kind of... With everything I do, it's kind of hard to actually do that on a regular basis. But if I could get to the point where I'm getting the 1 hour radio show up a week and then a couple other videos up, maybe 3 other videos, that would be really sweet. And then when we have a new episode of Tales that comes out, we put that up as well. But the channel is 100% free. Just go there, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. and subscribe to the channel and enjoy it. There's literally hundreds of videos there for you. There's tons of great entertainment. So check that out. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's teespring.com/stores with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. If you are watching the replay of the radio show right now on YouTube, down in the description box will be the link to the merchandise store. So all you have to do is pop that in there and you can go check it out. Like Old Boy said, there's shirts, posters, blankets, iPhone cases, just everything under the sun is there. So if you want to support the show, you want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it. We try to keep the prices really low for you the best we can. Sometimes the recommended price they put on that stuff is insane. I lower it down to just over cost, so we only make a few bucks off of it. So if you want merch, that's where you can find it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support. We got some people that never miss a show. They're absolute rock stars. They listen every week. They leave comments down on the thing. They ask questions, and I'm able to answer them and talk. It's really, really cool. So for all of you that are just soldiers in the Staring Army that just are always listening, just from me to you, I want to say thank you. And I love you guys. And I really appreciate inviting us into your home every week like that. To spend an hour a week with us, listening to us talk about these things that we love so much. And I hope that we are able to provide you with not only an entertainment, but also provide you with some knowledge and teach you something. To me, that is very important because we cover a lot of very interesting subjects, but our main goal here is to find the truth. That's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to answer questions that I've always had. And there's questions that a lot of people have had for a long, long time. And that's my goal, is to do the research, find the answers. Then once I do find those answers, get those answers out to as many people as I can get to listen. Another thing we do is we present evidence of things that most people don't believe exist but do actually exist. And that's a lot of fun as well. So I hope that you benefit from this, is what my basic point is. I hope that you enjoy the show every week, and I promise you that I will always do my best to give you an interesting show and to give you as factually accurate a show as it's possible for me to do. So once again, thank you for your support and thank you for listening. And until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.